So you have heard it just as much as I have, that dating in the queer community is complicated and only seems to be getting worse. And trust me, I absolutely had my fair share of horrible dates, inconsistent and avoidant men, and failed relationships. But I feel like my perspective on dating is a little bit different than most, and led me to my current partner, right? Dating doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it out to be. And I say that with the full knowledge that I am in a healthy relationship when many of you may not be. Now, let me be clear. It might come off like I'm on this high horse, but that is not how I mean it at all. I mean in the sense that I understand you might think I can't or don't relate, but I do. Not only have I been in your position before, but I have worked with many, many men that have also been in the same exact position. And a majority of those men are now in relationships, healthy relationships. So if you are wanting to figure out how to date in a healthy way in the queer community, stick around, right? I think you might find this episode to be helpful. And I'm going to present you with the 5 rules for successful dating in the queer community based on my experience, my knowledge, and people that I have worked with before. Now, before we do that, let me welcome you to the Deep Penetration Podcast. My name is Danny, and I am a self-esteem and love coach that works with gay and bisexual men in all matters of love and self-esteem. Now, the only thing that I ask is that you subscribe to the podcast and my other platforms, which help me to continue do what it is that I'd love to do, which is to sit here and have these conversations with you and have these discussions that I think are incredibly important. So I will provide you with all the information that you need in the description of the episode down below. So let us set the tone with some motivational quotes, right? Because who doesn't love a good motivational quote? And these are some of the ones that I have heard from my clients that are out there in the dating world, right? So the first one is dating is like a sandwich, or trying to make a sandwich when you're hungry. You end up only having moldy bread and expired mayo. Right? That's a good one. Super inspirational, motivational. The other one is at least the last guy I hooked up with lasted longer than my last relationship. That was a good one. I loved that one. There is dating is like Spirit Airlines, right? Looks great initially, but by the time it's all said and done, you've spent all of your money for a subpar experience. That was a really good one. And by the way, these are all quotes that my clients have told me in our one-on-one sessions that I wrote down, because I was like, these are way too fucking good to not keep them. If dating were a job interview, I would still be unemployed. Oh my God, this is one of my favorite ones. The employees at the DMV treat me better than most of the men I meet. I mean, come on, that's fucking genius. The one thing that I will say about queer men is that we are quick with the jokes and amazing with the wit, even though a lot of the times it is a defense mechanism, but we're funny as hell. Okay, there's no other way of putting it. So, do you feel inspired yet? Right? Do you feel motivated yet with those quotes, those super motivational quotes? Yeah, I bet you do. No, okay, I'm just kidding. The reason why I wanted to start with those quotes, from my previous clients, is because they all share something in common, right? A negative experience and a negative outlook on dating. If you are going to date successfully, and I tell my clients this all the time, you have to be willing to change your outlook on dating. Well, let's put it this way. You're asking me to, no, I don't know. Let me try to rephrase this. I know that what I am asking of you is not easy. Because if it was, I'm sure you would have already done it. It's kind of like that meme where it's like, the worst thing that you want to tell somebody who has anxiety is to calm down. Oh, thank you so much for that. I didn't realize that was an option, right? Kind of one of those situations. And usually the reaction that I get from people in these types of situations is, oh my God, you want me to give men another chance? Ew, absolutely not. That's gross. I would never do that. But listen here, you sassy queen. Yes, I am. I am asking you to give men another shot, right? I'm also asking you to give yourself another chance. That's really, really important here. So, because that is my goal, here are the top 5 rules. The first one is reflect on your positive dating experiences. I remember one client that I worked with told me basically that dating is like a data collection to figure out what he likes and what he doesn't like. Guess what? He's still single. The reason I say it's important to focus on the positive dating experiences is because it helps you to realize that there are good people out there. There are people with good intentions. There are people that want to date too in a healthy way. And when you have failed date after failed date, it's easy to look at dating as a negative thing. I totally understand that. Like this event, this thing that you have to do instead of something that you want to do, because according to society, the goal is to find a partner and to live happily ever after and blah, 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 blah. Yes. As a love and self-esteem coach, I would love nothing more than for all of you to find the love of your life. Trust me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's every single person's goal, right? It's also possible that you are not in the right mental or emotional or economic position to do so. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? As queer men, I feel like we spend a majority of our lives beating ourselves up and striving to attain a level of perfection that is, quite frankly, not sustainable. It really isn't. So when we fail at something, whatever it is, it really affects us. We fall back on negative behavioral patterns or negative ways of thinking just to validate for ourselves that we are not the problem, they are. Well, guess what? You've now put yourself on a pedestal and you give that energy off when you're dating. You know, there's a little something that most people aren't aware of, maybe you are, called the confirmation bias, which essentially means we look for signs and symbols to confirm a particular set of beliefs, right? So in the simplest terms, if you are constantly looking for red flags, you're going to find them. The question I have for you is, how often are you looking for the green flags? How often are you looking for the good shit? When you are on a date, how often are you saying to yourself, oh, wow, you know, he keeps eye contact with me. It's pretty amazing. Right? Haven't experienced that in a while. Or he communicates really well and is open to sharing his feelings. I like that. That's a good quality. That's something that I look forward to. Or he offered to pick me up or to pick up the bill. That's incredibly sweet. Versus what I'm sure a majority of people do, which is, why does he keep staring at me? That's creepy. Red flag. Right? Or how about the other one, which is he's way too open and honest. I don't like that. He's probably clingy. Stage 5 clinger. Does he think that I don't make enough money, that I can't handle the food bill, or that I can't drive myself? That's a total ick for me. Look, if you solely focus on the negatives, your experience is going to be negative. Focus on some of the good shit. The second thing here is reevaluate your type. If there is one thing that I struggle with the most to convince most of the men that I work with, and probably you yourself, is this one right here. Listen, having a type is completely normal. I understand. In fact, I myself have a type. When we think of a person, We should think of them as a whole person, meaning mind, body, and soul. So often, particularly in the queer community, we just focus on the body, the physique first, right? What is it with gay and bisexual men and our fascination with the male physique? And my opinion, my theory, whatever you want to call it, has to do with our exposure to explicit content at a very young age due to the lack of education around queer relationships and sex education. I think what ends up happening is we seek to understand these feelings, or feelings that we don't necessarily understand as youth, right? Being gay or bisexual youth. And what ends up happening is that we stumble across porn. And a majority of porn, especially gay porn, depicts these kind of like Adonis-looking men dominating each other. Well, as a young queer man, I came to believe that that is what passion and love looked like between two men. And in order to have that, I had to fit the aesthetic of these men. I even remember at one point looking up gay couple porn, right? And I found it to be so boring. That should have been the first indicator for me that porn had, or the porn that I had been consuming had skewed my perception of reality, but I didn't know any better at the time. There is also an obsession with remaining young. You see it all the time in the queer community, particularly if you go to certain queer areas, right? Men getting tons of plastic surgery, hair transplants, muscle or implants, fake teeth, you name it, right? Ageism is a real thing. And if you don't believe me or have never experienced it, ask any queer man over the age of 40. If you have ever heard the term Peter Pan syndrome and ever wondered what that actually looks like, take a walk down Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood on a Friday night. I promise you that you will stumble into, let's say you stumble into your local bar or your local club or whatever and just observe for a while. I promise you will find what I'm talking about. I am a 35-year-old bisexual male who is in the queer public eye. Believe me when I tell you, there are times I really feel not comfortable with myself, right? I truly think a big reason we are obsessed with age and beauty and fitness and all of that stuff is because all of those things represent vitality. And for many of you, younger years were spent in the closet. They were spent hiding who you were. This can cause you to feel like you need to make up for lost time or relive the years you missed out on. So what ends up happening? You only attract yourself to younger, fit, vivacious men to prove to yourself that your best years are not behind you. And look, I am incredibly empathetic to this, but being stuck in that game prevents you from actually being able to connect to someone who potentially would be a great partner for you in life because they don't fit all your requirements of beauty. If love and partnership is what you truly want, you have to reevaluate your type and why you refuse to expand your horizons. That's an incredibly important question. The third thing here is please update your dating profile, please. This may not apply to everyone, right? Since I'm sure some of you don't have dating profiles or refuse to have dating profiles, and that's totally fine. No judgments here. That's your life. You can choose to have a dating app or not. So whatever works for you is totally fine. Some people say, long gone are the days of meeting someone at a coffee shop or a bookstore, but I don't believe that. I think that that's still a very real possibility. The ability to meet people in a public or organic setting has not changed. It's our inability to be aware in those settings. Current technology, cell phones, iPhones, computers, all that has resulted in a culture of short attention spans, right? And patience and this kind of like the grass is greener on the other side mentality. And look, I know, I know that I'm really selling you on this whole dating thing right now. But listen, I'm just trying to keep it real, but that doesn't necessarily mean the right person isn't out there for you, right? Your responsibility is to ensure you're ready. So updating your profile pictures and your profile page and your dating profile is really important. And no, Grindr does not count as a dating profile. I don't care what you say, it's a hookup app. I would recommend apps that are geared more towards serious relationships or websites, right? So you have eHarmony, you have Plenty of Fish, or you have Hinge. I've had a lot of luck with Hinge, and no, I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just saying. Basically, the apps that are geared more towards serious dating, right? And if this is your first time trying to navigate dating apps, trying to understand how they work, I would highly recommend the dating course that I created. It's basically the 101 of dating for gay and bisexual men. And in that course, I have a breakdown of how to set up the perfect dating profile. So if this is something that you have been struggling with, I would highly recommend it. Trust me, you will find it to be incredibly helpful. And I also give additional tips and tricks on how to trick the algorithm basically to set yourself up for success. The fourth thing here is stick to a minimum of 3 dates. I know this sounds crazy, but if you meet someone and you enjoyed the first date, commit to 3 dates. Granted, that doesn't necessarily mean that the other person will commit, but if you connected, right, the hope is they'll want to see you again as well if you felt that exchange in chemistry. To be honest, even if it wasn't the greatest date, but there are things about that person that you enjoyed, you know, remember we're focusing on the green flags here, not the red flags, then commit to 3 dates. The reason why I came up with the 3-date rule is because, I mean, truthfully speaking, it's really hard to get to know somebody just on 1 date, even 2 sometimes, right? But by the 3rd date, your personalities start to come out a little bit more. You're not as filtered because you've gotten kind of past the initial niceties, and you get the ability to kind of relax into the situation a little bit more. And that helps to improve the overall experience. So 3-date minimum. The 5th thing here is commit to the process, not the outcome. This can be very difficult for a lot of us queer men, right? Yes, this is technically not just a queer issue, but let me explain why this can be particularly more difficult for gay and bisexual men. Committing to the process means that you have to be present. And the present can be a very uncomfortable place, especially if you struggled with your sexuality, with coming out, with just being proud of who you are, right? That period of time in many of our lives was one that we just kind of wanted to escape from, right? So what did we focus on instead? The future. We focused on the outcome opposed to the process, because the outcome was our Oz, right? The outcome was where all of our wishes and dreams would be granted, and we wouldn't have to worry about being chased around by the Wicked Witch and her band of monkeys, or being watched by the gnarled trees in the dark wood, or I don't know, being bewitched in a field of poppies. And the reason why I'm using this analogy here, in case you didn't catch on, right, to what I'm doing here, Wizard of Oz, just in case you didn't know, and I'm aging myself, but whatever, fuck it. What queer man doesn't know the Wizard of Oz? I mean, seriously, and if you don't, that's okay. Just educate yourself. My point is, the outcome always seems better than focusing on the process. it's easy to get frustrated with how long something is taking to develop with someone, how quick something is moving, or how busy someone is, or how much time they have, or how much time they don't have. We can always find a reason to run. But what really makes the difference is choosing to stay, committing to challenging yourself and asking the hard questions when you start to get those doubts, right? Because we all do. When you start to get those little scaries, as me and my best friend like to call it, reflect on the feeling and whether it's actually you or whether it's them. That is going to be an incredibly important thing to focus on, right? To differentiate between those two. And that can make all the difference in whether you have dating success or whether you have dating failure. I hope you guys found this episode to be helpful and insightful. Please make sure that you are subscribing to the podcast if it is something that you are enjoying, if it is something that you are getting a lot out of. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you've had this experience before. Let me know what you would like to see covered in the next season or in the next episodes. I'd love to interact with you guys. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, because at the end of the day, that is what it is all about. Please make sure you are following my other social media platforms as well, and I will provide you with all the information in the description box down below. Hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you guys in the next episode.